What's up, FA Nation? Happy Wednesday. Happy almost National Baseball Day. One day away from the ever so
What's up, FA
glorious
Nation?
day of
Happy
baseball returning.
Wednesday.
But
This is an
happy
NBA live
almost
stream.
National Baseball. John was the man on the playbook today for today's glorious, and I mean glorious, 5-game slate. John, John, what's up, man? How you feeling about tonight's slate?
I mean, it's fine. We did the podcast today, and basically everything we figured would happen on that podcast came down.
Right.
I don't love this slate. It's a 5-game slate. 2 games have totals over 10. There's not like a high, or 2 spreads over 10. There's not like a high game total really anywhere. Like 220, I think, was like the highest earlier today. So, I mean, it's fine. It's great. There are some top plays on here. Guys like Westbrook, George, Lillard, Beal, Booker. Like, there are some good players in here. I think it's just going to be like, you're going to look at the guy at the top of the leaderboard tonight and be like, really? Like, that's who they played? Or, like, that's the stack they used? And, I think that's what it's going to come down to tonight.
It seemingly happens that way, and every one of these smaller slates. But the game you were alluding to, over 220, Washington Phoenix 231. That is currently the biggest number on the board. Let's just hop over to injuries because there isn't many notable game totals that we have to mention. As we mentioned on the pod today, LeBron, we figured to be ruled out on a back-to-back. He is officially out, as well as Josh Hart and Tyson Chandler. Reggie Bullock and Mike Muscala from that same team are both questionable. Chris Dunn, Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, Otto Porter, all out. There are 9 active Bulls tonight. So we only have 9 players for the Bulls to pick through. I am very intrigued how they, on the second night of a back-to-back, approach that. Josh Jackson is out. Jordan Bell violated team rules. He's been suspended for a game. He's out. Trevor Ariza is out. And then we're just kind of waiting Mike Conley, Darren Collison. Those are the 2 guys we're really waiting on. And obviously, they're big.
Conley more than
pieces.
anything. The impact that Conley would make on the slate being ruled out or ruled in, I think, is larger than what Collison would do. Collison puts Tyreek in play, but Dorsey becoming probably the most popular play in the slate. If Conley is ruled out, given the way he's played the last 2 games, and I mean when Conley sat out the other night, the entire Memphis team went off. I think that was against the Thunder, right? They had Kabakala went for 40, Dorsey, Holiday went out. The whole team had a huge night there without Conley. So if he's ruled out, I think he impacts that roster more than Collison would be ruled out impact the Pacers.
Well, thankfully, tonight's slate does start at 8 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, a lot of time.
And thankfully, the Memphis Golden State game is one of those 8 p.m. games. We have 3 at 8 p.m., 2 after 10. So we're going to know prior to roster lock what the deal is, whether Conley's in, whether he's out, whether he'll be limited, whether he'll be monitored. All those words and whatever, we're going to find out. Hopefully. I'm going to knock on wood and say that we're hopeful that not 8:01 is when we find out that Mike Conley is ruled out and Tyler Dorsey goes for 50. But
the one thing I'm looking forward to baseball season is lineups will put out 4 hours.
4 hours, yeah.
But then we have to sweat the weather. So it's it's give or take a little bit. But I almost feel like at least with the weather, you can almost predict what's happening. We have no idea what's happening with these guys, if they're going to play or not, pretty much on any given night. So
let's go to all domes. Let's go, 30 teams of just with domes everywhere in baseball. Thoughts?
Yeah. I'm okay with it. Or at least
retractable roofs.
Yeah, retractable roofs is the way to go.
The old school has enough money.
Yeah.
They have enough money to afford retractable roofs.
Maybe in the NBA too, right? Nice sunny day. Open the roof.
I don't know about playing basketball outside. Yeah. You get a little wind coming and
it's all about the elements,
Yeah.
Let's see Harden make shots then when he's got a strong breeze.
He'll literally shoot 93 free throws a game if that's the case, because he'll just attack the rim. Yeah. They won't be able to play because everyone will foul out against James Harden. But James Harden and retractable roofs are not on this slate, John. You do have some to people at Fantasy Alarm.
I do. Opening day for baseball is almost here.
Technically opening day.
Technically opening day. If I did 2 drafts earlier this week. I faced a kid who drafted Chris Davis, so I'm already down home runs. Because ESPN, shout out to them, counted those stats. So cool. Got to make up that difference already. But yeah, MLB season opening day is pretty much already here. With the MLB Playbook Pro, you get analysis, customizable tools, playbooks, example lineups, ownership percentages, a lineup generator that uses actual analysis instead of just computer-generated numbers. For seasonal players, you get our new League Sync tool that allows you to sync your league to fantasy teams directly to our website. Go to fantasyline.com/MLB season and save instantly. Get the $200 package for just $75 and win for the whole season. fantasyalarm.com/MLB season. Dominate fantasy baseball this year. I mean, right. The season's coming. We have everything you guys need to become winners. You can talk in our subscriber chats. Half of the subscribers in there won their leagues last year. Probably more than half. But if you talk to them, people that are in there, they'll tell you just how great we did. Pat ourselves on our own backs here, James. But we have so much content, and we're here for you guys daily to make you all your decisions. You can already see in chat, helping out with draft questions, already getting waiver wire questions. Season hasn't even started. We're already answering waiver wire questions. So, baseball season tomorrow, 4 o'clock, opening day for everybody. But James, we still got NBA to talk about, so let's get to it.
Yankees actually technically open at 1, but they're not technically cool enough.
At 7, so
yeah,
okay.
Neither of us are cool enough to be.
We're not on the main slate.
Let's jump into the NBA, John. Like you said, we do have this 5-game amazing slate to talk about. Let's start with point guard, where we have Russell Westbrook and Damian Lillard. And I'm not sure really what the difference is lately, other than maybe Damian Lillard being the more consistent of the two, at least since CJ McCollum has gone down. And now there's no Yusuf Nurkic. Like, is Lillard the top guard tonight, or at least top point guard tonight, or do you still favor Westbrook over Lillard?
I mean, there's merit, obviously, to playing Westbrook. He did have a triple-double against the Pacers last time out. If Collison doesn't play, that should probably benefit him a little bit. But he had a horrible shooting night. He's actually had 2 straight bad shooting nights. He's only shooting 30% from the field in each of the last 2 games. One of those games, he just had, I think it was a triple-double, was able to get you 60 points. Didn't do it against Memphis the other night. So it's a bounce-back spot for him here. Is at home, which I think he'll benefit from a little bit. And again, we're on a small slate, so guys with Westbrook upside who, of anybody on the slate, now that LeBron's ruled out, there probably isn't.
Right.
Do you think there's anybody that can get to 90? It would take an 80 actual point game from Booker, right? We were close to predicting the other day.
You go down that road again, people are going to start expecting things, Sean.
Well, he has the highest upside, I think, of anybody else on the slate because he'll fill up the stat sheet for you. The Lillard thing, the Nurkic being out, obviously I think will impact a little bit, but sliding into Nurkic's spot is Enes Kanter, who is a usage rate monster in his own right, maybe even a little bit more than Nurkic is, and a great fantasy point per minute player. So, if you're going to get 30-plus minutes of Kanter, he can just as easily give you the offensive production that you're getting out of Nurkic and the rebounding. So, but that said, Lillard's averaging almost 60 fantasy points over the last 5 games. It's hard to argue, playing him. And the pricing difference isn't drastic. It's $200 on both sites. So now if you're looking, need that extra $100 somewhere, going down a little isn't going to kill you. It's not a huge drop off.
So would you lean Lillard ultimately, or would you if you were building one lineup tonight and you had 10.5K on DraftKings, would you pay for Westbrook or would you pay for Lillard? And let's throw a twist in there. Darren Collison is ruled out.
Is he ruled out?
No, that's just a hypothetical. Darren Collison is ruled out. You have 10-5, Westbrook or Lillard.
So I think I may trend Westbrook for ownership stat reasons in GPPs. I think people will go more towards Lillard tonight. Matchup-wise, though, like I said, you're getting the entire second unit of Chicago minus Rolo for 20 minutes. So someone brought up in chat, am I worried about a blowout? I'm not really worried about a blowout, but Lillard could get it done. If Shaq Harrison doesn't have a good shooting night, who else is going to score for the Bulls tonight? Or at least the Pacers have Bojan, they have Sabonis, they have Tyree, they have guys that can make a competitive game with the Thunder. So I think competitiveness wise, I would lean Westbrook. That game can stay closer. You could have a higher chance of hitting that ceiling. If Lillard goes in, the Portland goes up for 40. What if he plays 32 minutes tonight? You're not going to get there. So GPPs, I think Westbrook. If I'm playing cash games, it's probably Lillard.
Okay, it's fair. Let's move down your playbook at the point guard position, where I'm just going to rattle off the rest of the guys because, again, it's not a deep player pool tonight. We have Tomas Satoransky, who's really the only mid-tier play. And we'll throw Darren Collison in there, too, if Darren Collison does, in fact, suit up. He had a good game against OKC. They're really the only mid-tier. Then there's value. There's Seth Curry, Shaq Harrison, and Ryan Arcidiacono. How are you approaching all three of those guys? Two of them are written up, and I see, a play within the playbook. Inception type play. Ryan Arcidiacono was in the Shaq Harrison blurb. Yes. How would you rank them? Which formats would you play them in?
So the lineups I already posted for today are out. Obviously, news breaks will make pivots and adjust going from there. But I have Curry and Harrison as the 2-point guard, spending down, double punting, we'll say, a point guard because they're both playing 30-plus minutes. They're both giving us over 30 fantasy points now. In their last outings, Harrison's done it twice. So I'm loving the consistency we're getting at this sub 5K price tag on both sides. So I'm playing both Curry and Harrison on FanDuel at least. Again, and that's why I think spinning up for like Westbrook and Lillard could actually be contrarian tonight because of how shallow one of some of the other positions are. That will all change, I think, if Conley gets ruled out because now we can go to shooting guard and pivot off of Beal and Booker and go right in Dorsey and then pay up at point guard. But at least for now, the way the slate's constituted, I'm spending down at shooting guard, paying up. I'm spending down at point guard, paying up for shooting guard. Arcidiacono was purely just like a salary fit for me. I like Shaq Harrison scoring upside greater than him. I like Curry's scoring upside greater than his. But if I need that extra savings, like I'm perfectly okay with going on Arcidiacono. He had like 29 fantasy points last night, which is fine. So yeah, I don't hate him. I like what I've seen out of Harrison on the offensive end a little bit more.
Yeah, and end of the game last night, Harrison was in and Arcidiacono was not. So take that for what it's worth. Maybe even in a blowout, because the game ended up in 11 points, but it was not that close. Maybe, Harrison's the one going to get the blowout run no matter what. Speaking of spending up at shooting guard, we have two guys that are priced very high. Devin Booker, who is coming off one of his probably best scoring nights of his career, even though they lost by 30. And Bradley Beal, who's not coming off such a great game last night in a really exploitable matchup against the Lakers. But Bradley Beal, has been really good, and he has an 80-point game against Phoenix this year. Yeah. I think you like both of them, but talk about them both, how much you like them, how much you love them, how much you hate them.
Yeah, so, like I told you, on one of the lineups I have, it's spending down for Curry and Harrison because I'm paying up for both shooting guards here. I am obviously a little weary. I have him as my cash game lineup. I'm a little weary with Beal because he's played so many minutes.
Right.
That maybe that's finally starting to take a little bit of a toll on him. But that being said, it's still Phoenix. So, it's not like it seems like a trying matchup for him. There's going to be no defense played really at all. So, Beal's fine. And this is actually, I think, one of the lower prices we've gotten Beal in a while. $10,000, which is high, but, we've seen him over $10,000 for a little bit now. He's on the way down. I don't think I've ever seen Booker at 10-7 on FanDuel in my life. Nope. I think we've probably seen him high on DraftKings around 9K before, but I've never seen him as high on FanDuel. But I don't have a problem with that. I know you and I kind of went back and forth, and you said you weren't paying it. The man has taken 61 shots over the last two games, and he's got no more help coming either. No one else is really taking the load away. So I think in the good matchup here against Washington. So I think Booker Beal just go back and forth, take 100 shots tonight, spending up there. But as I said, that's going to change if Conley gets ruled out because I'll just pivot down to Wright and Dorsey, play them two, and spend up a point guard. Wright's consistently giving you, 30-plus fantasy points whenever Conley's out of the lineup. If Conley does play, Wright's still giving you 25-plus fantasy points. He's just a very consistent player, either at the backup point guard or starting shooting guard, however they want to use him. And then Dorsey, we've seen be an elite player when Conley's been off the floor. He's giving us 40 fantasy points pretty much in both games there. So if Conley's out, Dorsey's definitely the guy. Either way, that's how I probably approach that. It's all really hedging on Conley here, where my top spend-ups are.
And I'm going to ask you again, like I asked you the other night, if Conley is ruled out, what about Justin Holiday? Because Holiday had a really good game again, and he's 4,400 on FanDuel, and he's cheap on DraftKings as well. Do we have any interest there if Conley's ruled out. I mean, it's obviously contingent on Conley being ruled out, right?
And he's going to be the pivot off that too, because everybody's going to go to naturally just go to Wright and Dorsey, I feel like, or they may even split it up. Like you still may see like Booker and Dorsey as like a top pairing there. I don't expect there to be a ton of ownership on Holiday. I know he's played really well in the games in which Conley has missed, and Conley will play as we're on here, so we don't even need to talk about it. Conley's playing. Dorsey started the last time Conley played, and then him and Wright still split the minutes. So they still both played like 25 or so minutes. But it just holds true now to my original lineup. I'm spending down at point guard. I'm going to spend up at shooting guard tonight with Beal and Booker because Wright and Dorsey, they just take a hit in value.
Yeah, especially with them splitting time. And we talked about on the pod, Wright over Dorsey, even if Dorsey starts. There's just more. Yeah. There's just more upside to
more consistency right. there. Like he plays both positions, point guard and right. shooting guard rather. I know Dorsey can do a little bit of the same, but I feel like they prefer him. If they had the pick, they'll let Wright be the ball handler, and they'll prefer Dorsey be that shooting guard. So I think I would take Wright still in this matchup with Conley playing, and Conley gets a bump too. I think Conley's worth considering against Golden State tonight as well, even though he is obviously priced up a little bit more.
Let's talk about the rest of the shooting guard position. You have a couple more guys written down in your playbook. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, again, there's going to be a lot of injuries. There's no LeBron. There's no Josh Hart. There could possibly be no Reggie Bullock. You have Dennis Schroeder written down, and you have Wayne Selden, who played 40 minutes last night. Yeah. Talk about those three guys.
Yeah, I mean, they're all just GPP darts. I mean, like maybe Caldwell-Pope could be the safer of the group given his recent stretches of play. And typically, I only consider him a GPP player anyways. But again, I think it was like 3 of the last 4 games he's gone over 30 fantasy points. He went for 40 the other day as well. So I'm okay with Caldwell-Pope. I think he's going to play regardless of score here. Selden played 40 minutes, like you said, the other night. For a while, he was sort of splitting time. He was playing like mid-20s, but he got the big boost over, was it Blakeney last night? I think it was, or Caribou, whatever one it was. And I think you can go back to him. $3,600, $100 above min price on FanDuel. Good value there, especially if he's in the starting lineup. I don't know if that Bulls lineup has been released. I know the Bulls said who they're going to have available tonight, which is not many players there. So Selden's fine. And then Schroeder, I mean, hard to ignore what he's been doing lately too. Just consistently giving you, like almost 30 fantasy points a night, sometimes a little bit more. So I'm fine with him as well in this matchup against Indiana.
So the Bulls starting lineup is Shaq Harrison starting at point guard. Wayne Selden is starting at shooting guard. Antonio Blakeney is starting at small forward. Brandon Sampson, someone I mentioned to you on the podcast this morning, is starting at power forward. And Robin Lopez is starting at center. So no Ryan Archidakano in the starting lineup. And we get Blakeney and Sampson added to that. Any interest in either of those guys who are both guard eligible on DraftKings and FanDuel?
Yeah, so I mean, Blakeney we've seen a little bit of. To be honest with you, I don't know a lot about Sampson. What do you? You're the Bulls player, a fan here. What do you know about Sampson?
I mean, he's a pretty strong offensive player. He can shoot the basketball a little bit, and they've given him run the last 2 games. He's played 40 minutes the last 2 games. So just based on like the fact that they have nobody, they have 9 active players, and you have Rolo's a center. So he's not going to take away any minutes from Sampson. You have Felicio. So they basically have like 7 guys. I mean, they're playing him at power forward. He's not a big guy. I think he's fine considering Portland doesn't play like a big lineup. Like Aminu is 6'9", but he's like an athletic get out and run guy. I think that bodes well for Sampson. I like him. I don't think a lot of people are going to play him. Do I think it's like
price? So
right, he's stone cold min salary. Blakeney is a scorer, and that's all he can do. He doesn't give you anything, so we really need him to score. Like he would probably be the least interesting guy for me. I actually would have more interest in Sampson than I would in Antonio Blakeney.
Okay. I'd still play Selden over them, obviously.
I would as well, especially considering he played 40 minutes. Like that just says it all. They're gonna play him 40 minutes. They played him when they were close. They played him when they were getting blown out. He's just gonna play. And who is going to? Somebody has to score. He scored 20 points last night, so it's probably the safe assumption that he's the one scoring again tonight. Let's move to small forward, though, where a slim position got slimmer when LeBron was officially ruled out. It's really Paul George. And, like, if you want to throw Kevin Durant out there, fine. I think you and I are both in the same agreement that Golden State is just strictly for tournaments tonight. You know, if you want to play them, fine.
With the full grouping of them, all 5 are active.
Right.
Like, they're just going to give you like 40 fantasy points, which is fine. And again, on this slate, like, that's okay. You can get by with 40 fantasy points from like an 80, whatever, 100, Kevin Durant that I think he's costing right now. So if you want to go there, okay. But yeah, for me, exactly. They're all just GPP plays.
But Paul George does top the list, followed by Bojan, probably the only mid-tier play we have. And then it's a bunch of value. We have Mo Harkless, Troy Brown, Lance Stephenson. Break down small forward from top to bottom, because there's not going to be a lot of names that you mentioned because there's not a lot of viable options for us to choose from.
Yeah, it's ugly. And like I said, I think I said I could see George being a pretty high play tonight, ownership-wise, because of how the lack of depth here. You can see just people going George like Troy Brown, assuming he starts tonight, or not on DraftKings though, because Brown's actually 4,800.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, super high. Still been priced over on FanDuel. I kind of mix and match. I got Bojan in all lineups on FanDuel tonight. I think he's just the safest of the group. And then again, it all depends on salary dictation here. You can spend up to George, or I think you can go to Harkless, or you can punt all the way down, to Troy Brown Jr. and take the money there as well. Lance is interesting. Yeah, I would like to know maybe lineups or, given everybody's out, it's on a back-to-back. Like, he's kind of an older player. But 25 minutes in each of the last 2 games, and he's filled up the stat sheet. So I wouldn't hate a Lance Stephenson either. Not in the playbook, but we talked about it a little bit on the podcast. Like, Royce O'Neal could be a guy tonight. Like, Jay Crowder could be a guy tonight. Like, people who get run and blow, it's like they could potentially, see extended minutes against the Lakers.
Any love for your favorite player in the NBA, Mikal Bridges?
Yeah, I mean, he just like really hurt us the other night with one actual point in 31 minutes. I don't know how it happened. I don't know why it happened, especially after Rashawn Holmes got ejected. You would have figured like they would have just needed to play him. They played on the minutes. The production wasn't there, and that's the downfall. Like, he's not Miles Bridges, that's for sure. He doesn't have the offensive game of Miles. But defensively, he can get you the numbers. He just needs to produce elsewhere for you. He's a risk, though.
Right. Phoenix just needs somebody, anybody to step up.
About Troy Daniels. He's on the playbook. We touched upon him in the podcast. Shooting guard, Troy Daniels, like another min-price play. Took 10 shots the other day. Like, didn't make any of them, but like
if they went in,
like there was value there. So
done with small forward. Ready to move on to an even worse position, and that is power forward. Where if you're playing on FanDuel tonight, good luck. Derrick Favors tops the list at 7.4K over on FanDuel, followed by Draymond, Kuzma, Portis. In the playbook, your top guy is Derrick Favors. You also like Kyle Kuzma. You also like Portis. But who profiles as a cash game play to you?
Yeah.
I mean, we're not necessarily saying play cash games, but for those that do play cash games, like, if you're spending up at power forward or spending up, because there's not actually like in that guy we're spending up for, like, who is the guy that profiles for cash games tonight, John? Because I'm not sure.
No, I agree with you, and I probably could, future feedback there. I probably could start listing these players in terms of how I rank them as opposed to just salary, because it's not that Favors is my top, my favorite power forward. He's just the most expensive on FanDuel tonight. I do a lot of my rankings on FanDuel because they're just so fickle with their positioning. I stick with the positions there because on DraftKings they play too. So, the thing here is like he only plays around 24, 25 minutes a night. So my questioning is like, is there really going to be a blow to where he's not going to get those minutes? Like it's not like he's going to play 40 minutes to get knocked down to 24. Like is Favors going to play 12 minutes in a blowout because of this? I mean, you look at the blow against Phoenix, you look at the blow against Chicago. He still played 22 and 25 minutes in those games. So I actually think Favors could be okay here, even if they do blow out, the team that they're playing tonight. So I'm not too worried too much about it there. It is just expensive on FanDuel to pay $7,400 for a guy you're only getting at most 27 minutes out of. It's just crazy. Portis, we have to see if he's going to start again tonight. You mentioned he came off the bench last night, but then Ariza got hurt and things got switched around. So regardless, he's probably good for 25-plus minutes, a really good 25-plus fantasy points, rather. There's a really good matchup for him against Phoenix. We can say the same thing about Jabari Parker. I didn't put him in at small forward, but him and Portis to me are around the same exact person at this point. They're both they have some upside. They also are very capable of doing nothing for you. Mid-tier price plays as well. For cash games, I think it's Kuzma and Sabonis. Kuzma with no LeBron, we talked about it. The last time LeBron sat, we worried maybe a blowout was going to happen. He still played 38 minutes. A lot of the offense ran through him against Detroit. I expect the same thing to happen here. I think regardless of what happens, Kuzma's going to be on the floor taking all the shots. So super safe as price points. And then Sabonis, he had this revenge game, but he's also played really well of late. 3 straight games now with double-digit rebounds. So those two guys are really the core of my power forward position. Everybody else you can probably just play as a DVP option. But I also think Kuzma and Sabonis probably very, very chalky tonight.
Yeah, they're probably the chalk plays, because then when you go down the power forward position, it's kind of just the Suns guys, right? Like
maybe Thad if you wanted to throw him in there with unexciting. And then it's like Holmes, who I would rather play over Bender. We've had this conversation a lot of times. Like Bender's going to get the minutes, but Holmes in 20 minutes can do what Bender does in 35. Right. And then if something happens where Holmes gets 25, you can maybe be their highest scoring front court player. So GBP is Holmes, obviously. No Josh Jackson, disappointingly enough tonight. There was a chance he could have played. Hoped he would have played and didn't happen. So I'm in on Holmes here, over Bender. But if you're looking for a guy that's going to at least play the minutes and maybe fall into some points, Bender could be a guy.
Let's finish it up at center, John, where Jonas Valanciunas was going to be the chalkiest play of the slate. And if Mike Conley was obviously ruled out, I'm still kind of thinking he's going to be chalky considering, he's been really good and there's no one behind him. But we do have a center for $5,000 and $6,500 that resides in Portland that has a very nice mustache, and he cannot leave the country. Can't leave the country, or he'll never play in the NBA again. And he goes by the name of Enes Kanter. Mm-hmm. Is Kanter the chalkiest play on tonight's slate?
If Kanter's not like 60+% owned tonight, I would be stunned. Especially on DraftKings at $5,000. On DraftKings, he could be 70% owned. Like it's just too cheap. Too cheap for a guy that we know is a point per minute monster, that we know we've been begging to see 30+ minutes out of him. Whenever he does, he gives us like massive doubles. And you brought it up, the other day, or was it last night or today on the podcast rather? The last time he played Chicago, put up 65 fantasy points. He had 23 points, 24 rebounds in 40 minutes. Now again, is he going to play 40 minutes tonight? Probably not. But again, it doesn't take a lot of time for Enes Kanter just to rack up fantasy points. So I just can't imagine spending up when you have a guy that's probably going to be the top scoring center on the slate as like the cheapest viable center option.
1.23 fantasy points per minute since joining Portland. And that includes everybody. That includes McCollum, that includes Nurkic, that includes Lillard. 1.23 fantasy points per minute, 23% usage. Numbers are only going to go up, people. It's not like these. This has been Enes Kanter's MO his whole career. When he
just doesn't play any defense.
Right. He that is almost overselling it. He plays negative. He is the Dennis Schroeder of the center position.
Which is why I have Felicio as my util punt play on DraftKings GBP lineup tonight. Because if he plays like 25 minutes tonight against Kanter, there's probably some upside there.
Which he's getting. I mean, he's playing 20+ minutes, and plus there's only 9 healthy Bulls. And right. How many more games is Robin Lopez going to play? They didn't want the guy.
Why has he been playing all this time anyways?
You're right. They didn't want him. He was out of the rotation. Then they realized he was good. Is there anyone else at center? I mean, Felicio's your punt. DeAndre Ayton could be a really strong play. I mean, Washington doesn't rebound.
That matchup, Ayton and Bryant, I think could go against one another. Both are bad against opposing centers. Right. Bryant had his breakout game against Phoenix earlier this year. It was that overtime game, but he went 14 for 14 from the floor. Remember that? Didn't miss a shot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, not that I don't think that's going to happen again. I don't think he's going to go perfect from the floor, but clearly this is a matchup he can take advantage of against Ayton, who just doesn't play defense yet as a rookie. Maybe never will because nobody in the NBA does. But you also had mentioned Cousins on the podcast. I think that's fine if you want to be contrarian, pivot off of Valanciunas. We know Cousins is actually like the better of the big five, essentially. Like on the floor, like he just does a little bit more, and his fantasy production is a little bit higher. So Cousins is fine. People have talked about Gobert in chat. I don't know if he's gonna play enough to really get us there tonight at like 10K.
Yeah, that's the price discrepancy from FanDuel to DraftKings is always a tough pill to swallow because maybe at 8-2 I'd consider playing Gobert in this matchup. Like he could probably get us to 5x in 3 quarters.
Yeah.
But like, do you think that this game without LeBron, like, is there a chance going on a second night of a back-to-back, traveling to Utah without LeBron? Is there a shot that this game isn't 20 by the end of the third quarter? Like Kyle Kuzma, it's a Devin Booker thing, right? Like Kuzma has to score. It's like KCP has
to go for 50 tonight, yeah.
Right. Oh my God. And you're relying on KCP. Like the other night like was reasonable because you're relying on Devin Booker. And this
isn't like a national television game, right? This isn't like Rondo's going to go for 50?
No, this isn't a nationally televised game. And let's see. Actually, it's a good question because if it is, would that change your opinion?
I'd be mildly interested in Rondo.
Would that change your opinion? So it's an ESPN game. Nationally televised. We have Indiana OKC at 8, and then the 10:30 game is the Lakers Utah.
That's damn interesting.
So now let's just go all the way back, John, because nationally televised Rondo is a real life phenomenon.
It's a real thing.
I don't know if people know about, and we've kind of
people know about it by now.
People know about it by now. We've talked about it enough, but he's been pretty good, and the offense is going to run through him with LeBron off the floor. Does this sway your opinion, I guess, about Rondo and maybe the Lakers and the Jazz? Because if the Lakers can keep it closer, I mean, it obviously puts the Jazz in play, like Donovan Mitchell shooting guards against the Lakers.
Right. So I'm trying to see when the last game that LeBron sat and Rondo played. See if I can get some numbers on this. Was that the Milwaukee game? Did LeBron sit against?
LeBron did not play against Milwaukee.
So Rondo played 39 minutes in that game, went for 40 fantasy points. I know he sat against Detroit as well, and Rondo played 38 minutes and put up 40 fantasy points. So
correlations there, John.
The last 2 games that LeBron has sat, Rajon Rondo's played about 40 minutes, put up 40 fantasy points. Now they're on national television. I may have to rethink a lot of things tonight. Rajon Rondo may be, may have to change the picture or cover image of my lineups, instead of.
Tournaments only, though, right? Like, we're not talking like suddenly Rondo becomes like a staple cash game play because the spread is still 16. Like it's still 16, which is pretty much like Vegas is literally basically telling us not to play this game. They're saying, hey, play this game if you want. You get 3 quarters out of the guy.
Yeah, you get that late night hammer,
That is the unfortunate part, that this is the 10:30 game and it's 16.
You get Rondo at 2%, right? And you're in a sweat and you get Rondo late night hammer on national television. If you don't have him, you lose. If you don't have him, you lose. People are chasing you down with Rajon Rondo tonight. So, that being said, he's a good price too. $6,000 on DraftKings. Let's see on FanDuel. Do we got a Rondo price on FanDuel?
Yeah, Rondo price on FanDuel is $6,500.
Those are good numbers. And Collison's rolled in too. We didn't touch upon that yet, but Collison just rolled in. I think as I make some pivot lineups, we're still an hour and a half from roster lock, so plenty of time. I think I'm going to throw a Rondo lineup out there for everybody watching.
I got to say it because we didn't touch on him. Just before we get out of here, we didn't talk about the best player in the NBA, and he plays center for the Lakers. That's Jubail Pierre Mcgee, who's now gone for 72, 45, 52 fantasy points. And yes, he gets Rudy Gobert, And yes, he's still JaVale McGee. He's never not going to be JaVale McGee. Yeah. He got Brooklyn, Sacramento, Washington in those last 3 games.
Couldn't have been a better trifecta.
Literally the best case scenario. Like if this was the Clippers, like we'd be all in. But now considering you have Rondo, considering that Rondo is kind of changing your mind on things, can you see if you're making 10 lineups? Could you see throwing JaVale McGee in 1 or 2 of those lineups?
I think you would have to at least if you're game stacking like this now, because now you can actually make like an interesting Lakers game stack with like Rondo, Kuzma, and like Mcgee and like KCP maybe or something like that.
Right.
Like it's possible. He's in 2 games against Utah. He's averaging 23 fantasy points in 21 minutes. So I mean,
30. What happens if he gets 30, right?
What happens? He's shooting 47% of the field. The man's got 15 blocks over the last 3 games. So, go ahead. Go crazy, folks. It's the end of the season in the NBA. So, things like JaVale McGee breaking slates will happen in these final couple weeks. So,
it's happened 3 slates in a row. So
I know. That being said, Kanter should still be like 70% on.
Yeah, he's officially starting as of 5 minutes ago. We just got word. He's officially we knew water is wet and his Kanter is going to start. But that does wrap it up, John. We're going to be in subscriber chat for a while. No naps for us, no time off. John's going to be in the lab, so to speak, tweaking his lineups for the next however long it takes. Lineup lock again, 8 p.m. Eastern time. It's 6:40 right now. Any final thoughts, John, before we get out of here?
Baseball's tomorrow.
Baseball is tomorrow. God, I love it. I love this time of year. But with that, later, guys. We'll catch you guys in the Winter Circle.